So obviously our next unit is going to be over religions. Now, before we get into this, there is a little stipulation that I want to kind of give you. When we go over religions, there are 5 main world religions that we will go over this year. The state of Ohio says there are 5 main world religions that I need to go over with you. So those are the 5 that we'll cover. There are many, many, many more religions than just the 5 that we'll cover. But as we go through religion, guys, we're talking about just a few things. We're talking about who started them, where did they start, do they have any sacred readings or books, and what are their main beliefs. That's really all we're getting into with it, just so that you kind of have a general idea and understanding of those main 5. Those main 5 being Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism. Now, some of those I imagine you've never heard of. That is fine. As we go through these, you guys are probably going to have some questions that we cannot answer for you. When it comes to religions, guys, they're mainly just people's beliefs, what they feel to be true, or what they feel to be, right. So just because, it's one person's belief, it's kind of hard to say, this, that, or, whatever about it. So, for example, what Miss McClellan's belief might be, it might be different than my belief. Does that make hers wrong and mine right? Absolutely not. Same thing for your classmates. Odds are a lot of you guys, have been raised to have different beliefs about this stuff. That is okay. That doesn't make, yours right and theirs wrong, or vice versa. Everybody's is different, and that's fine. Okay, you worry about your own, and that's kind of it. There also might be cases where you might ask us a question, about a religion or whatever, and we probably can't answer it without knowing what religion you are. And quite frankly, that's none of our business. So there might just be times when you ask us something, and we might just say, go home and ask your parents, ask grandma, grandpa, ask whoever. It's not really for us to kind of tell you that. Okay, so I know that's a little bit confusing, but that is kind of important to get out of the way before we get into these. So, of these 5 religions, if you look at your study guide, there are only 3 written on there. We're going to cover these 3 first, because these 3 religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, they have a lot of the same traits. They kind of share some of their beliefs, and they have several different things in common. So let's start with those 4 common traits. If you look at the back of your study guide at the top, there's a place where you can list these 4 things. You need to write down all 4 of these. These will be important. You'll have to know these. Now, the 4 things that those 3 religions have in common. The first is where they start. Okay, they all begin in Southwest Asia. Some people today refer to this as the Middle East, but it's in a very small part of Southwest Asia. The second is that they all believed in a single God. The religions and the groups of people before these religions believed in multiple gods. If you think back to when we talked about the Egyptians and the Sumerians, they had gods for everything. There was a bunch of different gods. These 2 religions only believed in one. Number 3, each was first led by a single person. That means that one person started each of them. One person started Christianity, one person started Judaism, one person started Islam. And then lastly, each had a sacred set of writings, meaning that each one had some form of a sacred text or a sacred writing. Each of them has some kind of a holy book. So this is that map of that Southwest Asian area. Like I said, a lot of people call it the Middle East. But if we're going to look where all 3 of these religions are going to start, Islam's going to start here in Saudi Arabia, about right where my mouse is. Christianity and Judaism are going to start right here in this area where it says Israel and Palestine. Right, so they're not too far apart from one another as far as where all three of them begin. So they all start pretty close to the same area. Now, what's written here in the yellow where it says Israel, right below where we wrote down our 4 common traits, you're going to see a question that says Jerusalem is in the country of blank. You just need to write the word Israel. It's written there in yellow for you. Like we just saw on the map, each of them started pretty close to the same area. But another thing they have in common is the city of Jerusalem. All of them have some type of a sacred or a holy site in that city that each of them believes is very important to them. So throughout history, these 3 religions have fought against each other for control of this area. Each one wants to make sure that their sacred sites or special areas are kept safe. What they eventually had to do is divide the city into 4 quarters. Looks something like this today. So there's a Jewish quarter, a Muslim quarter, a Christian quarter, and something else called the Armenian quarter. But within these different quarters, and a lot of them are shown here on this map, they're colored in here in the gray, but then they're labeled for you. And then they're shown here with these red markings, are some of these different sacred or special sites. So the ones that have a star, those are places that are important to Jews. The places that have the crescent moon, that look like kind of red C's, are sites that are important to Muslims, or the Islam religion. And the crosses are places that are important to Christians. So we're going to look at 3 of these specifically. We're going to look at 1 of each. So the first one we'll look at is a thing called the Western or the Wailing Wall. It's right here. It's this little section of wall there. The second one we'll look at, and this one is the sacred site for Jews. The next one we'll look at is called the Dome of the Rock. It's right up here above that Western Wall. It's a sacred site for Muslims. And then the last one we'll look at is called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's right here. It's a sacred site for Christians. So this is that Western Wall, or that Wailing Wall as it's sometimes called. What the Western Wall is, it is literally the last remaining wall of a Jewish temple. So if you're looking right here, that's that remaining part of the wall. If you remember that Dome of the Rock I mentioned earlier, it's right here. So even though these sites belong to different religions, they're all within one city and they're all pretty close to one another. Now, the significance behind this wall, like I said, it was part of a Jewish temple. It was destroyed by the Babylonians. It was rebuilt, and then it was later destroyed again by the Romans. After the Romans destroyed, it is not rebuilt. So this is the last kind of remaining part of it. But the custom for people to visit this wall, Jews will visit the wall, pray next to it, and if you look really close, you can see these little pieces of paper put in the cracks of the wall. One of the customs is to write a prayer down on a sheet of paper and shove it in a crack between the blocks. Now, you do not have to be Jewish to visit this Western Wall, or the Wailing Wall, or to leave one of those prayers in the rock. These are 4 former U.S. presidents. You have President Obama, President Bush, President Clinton, and President Trump. They had all made visits to the wall, but none of the 4 of them are Jewish. Okay, but you can go visit it. It's in Jerusalem. All right, so you asked what the hats were. The hats are called a yarmulke. Those are customary for it's customary to be worn during Jewish ceremonies by men. So, like I said, even though these men aren't Jewish, they're still observing the custom of wearing it out of respect. Just out of respect. Now, the next one up is the Dome of the Rock. This one is considered to be the oldest existing Muslim holy site. There are others, but the belief is that this one is the oldest. But you can usually see it pretty easily in pictures from Jerusalem just because of its golden dome. It makes it pretty easy to spot. No, it is gilded, so it is wooden and given a gold coating. Then the outer walls are a kind of like a mosaic tile. Now, within the Dome of the Rock, there is literally a big piece of rock there in the middle. The belief in Islam is that they believe their founding leader was on this rock when he rose to heaven. Okay, so therefore that rock is considered to be sacred. You can go into this site, you can see the rock. Obviously you can see the people here around it. But no, they don't let you up on it or anything like that. It is very customary for Muslims to go to this site and pray. So that's what you see these little dots here. Those are people praying outside. Last site up is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, or Sepulcher. You can usually see it in pictures of Jerusalem because it has blue domes. But the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, it covers 2 Christian holy sites. It covers what they call, well, it's really the hill where they believe their founder was crucified, and then also his tomb. So if you're looking at this picture here, what you see here in the tan, those are rock outcroppings that used to stand in this site. Those were later removed, and the church was built over top of those 2 sites. So this little spot here, this piece of this mountain or hill, that's still standing within the church. That's still there. You're going to see this little tiny building in pictures. It covers where the tomb was. So this is inside the church. If you look down here, you can see the glass. Underneath that glass is this piece of rock. Okay, so that's what you're seeing underneath the glass there. But this is where they believe that their founding leader was put on a cross and crucified on top of this rock. And that's a better picture of the rock you can see. Yeah. Something called the Stone of Anointing inside the church. It's where they believe their founder, and we'll talk about him later, his name was Jesus, was placed after his death, prepared for burial. There it is again. This is that little tiny building I said that actually covered the tomb. This is actually inside the tomb. This man here praying next to it is the Pope.